Welcome to another episode of All Things in the Name of Love. Today I have with me another soul sister that I just met, Gabrielle, or is it Gabrielle? Gabrielle Pimstone.
Perfect. Yes, that's
And
right.
we were just talking a couple minutes before I pressed the record button, and we're both animal lovers, specifically cat lovers. I mean, I love all animals, but I'm visiting a friend whose kitty Abu was on me right before I pressed the record, and that energy of animals is so divine, and there's so many levels we can talk about, but I want to start with this one because that's what we felt the heart resonance with first. So tell me about your relationship with your kitties when you had them and what
Oh,
you
wow.
felt.
Yeah. I felt a family connection, a familial connection.
Mhm.
There was unconditional love. It was quite, they actually taught me so many lessons, Sophia, about unconditional love, about trust, because they were both rescue cats, and the one was particularly feral. And she learned to love and trust. Took about 5 years to hear her little voice. So they were my protectors. And I guess I was their protector in some way. It was a mutually symbiotic relationship. And I miss them 2 years on. I miss them every day.
And you felt that, so I've felt that with animals too, where there's this protection that they offer. And I've had energy sessions with animals where they're literally bringing in. I had a session with my mentor a few months ago, and I was staying in a friend's house, and she said, "Is there an animal there?" And I said, "Yeah, her name is oh, I just lost her name. No, anyways, Kat was there, and she was from Saturn, and I had to be there for the session to take place with me because she had information for me through her. I don't even understand, but it was really, really magical. And we did some healing for me that couldn't have taken place if I hadn't been in the house with this particular
Mm,
cat.
That's
It's like,
interesting.
wow, this is
Yeah,
so fascinating.
it
So that
is.
they are so in tune with their multidimensionality in ways that we can't begin to understand.
Yeah,
And
they really are. Yeah. I mean, after my cats passed away, I'm a channel. So I heard their little voices meowing. They were split seconds, and I wanted to hold on to them.
mhm,
And then I had the most magical experience. I've got a photo of it where I was on an online program and I was in a very elevated energetic space,
mhm,
and they appeared I've got in the bedroom, I've got a ceiling fan,
mhm.
and they appeared in a beautiful, gentle, kind of light green orb for me. And I knew it was them. And so I took a photo because I was like, oh, people aren't going to believe this. It was magical. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And so that leads me to, because you have that connection, when did you first start noticing it before you had a life as a corporate psychologist, and that led you to, I know that was intuitive because I already sensed that was intuitive. So how did that help you first connect with your animals and then connect you to your higher calling?
Sure. Well, it connected me in so many ways to my animals, to my higher calling, to everything. What actually happened was my awakening began when I started to channel, but I was in a low vibrational state because my cats were actually not well at the time.
Okay.
And I was anxious, and I started channeling these sound bites. I would wake up every morning and I would channel sound bites, maybe not every morning, but about 4 or 5 times a week. And I never understood them. They were in almost an ancient language that wasn't my own. And then
Wow.
I got and then I got they were mainly in my head. But then one morning I woke up to a voice at the bottom of my bed channeling Ben, the name Ben. And a few days later, in this program, I was on an online Zoom chat or program. I was in a breakout room, and there was a woman who was talking about her late son-in-law Ben,
Wow.
yeah, and they had just celebrated his 8 year the passing, the anniversary of his passing. And I said, what day, what time, and we worked out it was exactly when I heard the word Ben. That got me really curious. And then things started happening in my professional life where I really just lost the passion for what I was doing. And it was a major thing because I'd always had so identified with my career. I loved it. It blew my hair back. And all of a sudden, it was no longer having any resonance with me. So there were a confluence of things that got me interested in energy work. And when I started doing it, it opened up my purpose. I realized that I needed to pivot. I needed to find a way to work with people, to heal them deeply and also quickly, which is what my modality does. I've been working in human transformation for many years in corporate, but it was a slow process. It was a lot of bureaucracy to get through. And I found a modality, that enabled me to help people fast and also permanently. And that changed everything. I left the corporate world, and I'm now an energy coach. It also, of course, has changed my relationships with family and friends, and with my cats. Yeah, the sense of intuition, because as my intuition was growing and expanding, I was able to tune into what they were going through. And at that time, they were going through a kind of protracted dying process. They were ill, they were anxious. So I was able to really tune in and tend to their needs in ways I'm not sure I would have been able to have done had I not started this journey.
I completely understand that, because like when we allow ourselves to get out of our heads
Yeah,
and listen to that intuitive sense, it's pretty magical.
magical. It's magical. And I think intuition is the most untapped skill. And we've all got it. We're all born with spiritual gifts. We're all born with deep intuition. And life happens and we kind of lose that. We lose that muscle. And so it's when you are tapped into intuition, you are able to live life in a way that is guided, that is directed, that feels a little bit, more effortless. You actually really start to live more in flow. And I wish more people would take that seriously.
I agree,
Yeah.
because like when I know I can tell in my body when I'm doing something out of habit versus something when it's just flow. And for me, if I get in my head, I have a practice where I put my hands on my heart, and if I'm standing, I'll ask what a yes feels like, which is usually forward and a no is backwards, and I'll have to put my feet far apart. So I don't, but when I'm just sitting, I ask what a yes feels like, and I'll just wait and feel it in my heart, and then I'll ask my
Yes.
body what a no feels like, and it'll usually drop to the bottom of my stomach. And that will break the habit of the pattern of the behavior.
That's right. It's interesting because I've got a different, and I love your style of intuitive scanning. I do it slightly differently, but I am going to try yours, which is really to put your hands together and to ask a question,
Okay.
and to work out what your yes or no is. For some people, that for me, if it's yes, my hands move a little closer together. If it's no, they either slightly move out or they kind of just stay the same. So there are different ways of tapping into your intuition. And I love yours. As I
That's
said, I'm going to try
interesting.
that.
So I'm
Yeah,
just, I have them like here, and then they're not moving forward, but if I ask for a yes in my hands, the tips get warm. And if I ask for a no, it drops to my palms.
interesting.
Yeah, it's so
Interesting.
fascinating.
It is fascinating. Yeah. So I mean, I actually just did it the other day. I made a decision based on that very technique.
I love that.
Yeah.
It can be big, it can be small. I mean, for me, um, I I am very sensitive with food, and I love food. So
That's a bit of a double whammy. How do
yes,
you navigate that?
with the yes and no's, like I'll go to the grocery store, I'm like, okay, can I
Right.
have this? And for some reason, I love dairy. Dairy doesn't love me anymore. But I was allowed to have some cheddar cheese this week. And I'm like, really? That's a treat then.
Wow.
And normally
Wow.
it's not. So like I have to really just tune in and be like, okay, can I have it now? And it's like, yes or no. And then I also eat intuitively. So it's it's a whole thing because I've had to, because my body is so sensitive.
Yeah.
I have to tune into like, okay, does this feel aligned? Does this not feel aligned? Like right now for a few days, I'm just gonna have like shakes and salads for my meals. Because I'm doing some sort of, excuse me, detox. And that's
Yeah.
other times
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a steak, even though I haven't had one in 10 years because my body wants the nutrients of a steak. So it really is that navigation is the combination of it's applied intuition. I
Yes. 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 I think that's really interesting. What I teach my clients as a way to build their intuition is through dreaming, because
Mm,
it's the quick, and I mean, I've been working with dreams for 30 years, and it's the obviously the quickest route or path into your unconscious.
mhm,
And so when you build that muscle and you get into the habit of um, documenting your dreams, sensing into your dreams, all of that stuff, you're actually building your intuitive capability as well. So we all dream, and it's something that we can all do. So there's another tip for people who are wanting to develop or build out their intuition.
I love that because well, when I dream, sometimes I have lucid dreams, which is amazing.
It's
And sometimes
amazing.
I can tell when the dream is for me and when it's actually tapped into the collective because I'm in tune with the energies. And if it's a collective, what I do is cancel, clear, delete because I can tell the energy is a lower frequency than where
Yeah,
I'm at.
yeah,
And so having that discernment too is pretty important because sometimes we like take on a dream that isn't for us. And
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I would extend what you're saying, Sophia, to thoughts and feelings. Like if your vibration is low and you're kind of sitting with a story that's bringing you down, asking yourself the simple question, is this really mine? Is a way of discerning between what's yours and what's either somebody else's or part of the collective unconscious as well.
right.
So yeah, yeah,
It's so much fun to like tune into those energies. And like for me in the past couple months, the people I connect with, um, my former friends we're shifting frequencies. And that's the best way I can describe it. So let's say I had a really, really close friend 6 months ago, frequency shifted, so I'm not really communicating with them. There's nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just a shift in the frequencies. And since we're in such a dynamic time, shifting from, oh, that person doesn't like me to, oh, no, 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 we're just in different frequencies.
yeah,
It
yeah,
minimizes the hurt feelings, it minimizes the perceptions that something's wrong, and
yeah.
it allows us to just keep in our own lane.
Correct, exactly. And I think what you're touching on is such an important message for people who are going through a spiritual awakening or who are embarking on a spiritual journey, because when your frequency changes, you experience that in your external world, both the good and the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And for many of us who have like traversed this journey, relationships have changed. And part of that is a little bit of a clearing out. So, for example, I had a friend for many years who really loved to gossip. And I used to kind of get into that with them. And when my energy elevated, I couldn't take the calls anymore. So
Mhm.
it's a really common symptom of people who are elevating is that relationships change, and some of that means relationships purge, and you've got to get comfortable with that.
Yeah. And it's not a personal thing.
No, it's not.
That's the most
No.
important thing because like I've had some people in my life where I'm like, I've had awarenesses in the dynamics. I'm like, oh, that really doesn't serve me anymore. I love you. I see you. we're in different frequencies, and that's all that needs to happen. There's no fight, there's no discussion. It's just
Yeah,
this release so
yeah.
everybody can be on their own journey. And what I felt, especially in the past couple months, is yes, be compassionate to others, yes, help others, but the self-care, it's gone through the roof.
Huge, huge, because when you are when your energy shifting and you are releasing stuff, it can be physical, it can be emotional, you're purging. And so you've really just got to focus that much more on
Yeah.
your self-care. I couldn't agree with you more about that.
Yeah, I spend about 80% of my time alone. Which is really bad. Bad
Is
in
that
one way,
your
but
form of self-care? Solitude is a
yeah,
form of self-care. It really
yeah.
is. Yeah,
Because
I get that.
yeah, being present with myself and my feelings and not being distracted is so critical. I'm a former historian, so like I got a really, you know, very well developed obsessive compulsive curiosity tendency.
I
And,
hear you.
and to pull that back and be like, okay, let's get back to innocent curiosity
Yeah, yeah.
and just feel, because my journey has been like getting back in touch with my body
Mm.
and really feeling what it wants to tell me as opposed to what my brain wants to analyze. It's been really beautiful because my body tells me now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. And it's available for us to tune in at any point in time. And it's quite incredible to me that we've got all these tools at our disposal, our bodies, nature, all these kinds of things that sleep, dreaming, and people really just, don't access them.
Right,
There's so many tools that we've got to open ourselves, to expand ourselves.
right,
And you just got to be aware and conscious. Yeah,
right.
the
And
body is one of them.
are you noticing with your clients that there's more receptivity? Okay,
Definitely, definitely. What's actually been really interesting for me is my clientele used to be mainly female.
okay.
And what's changed is that I'm getting more men come to me. So that's an interesting observation.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, yeah. So that kind of the receptivity there has increased, which I find very encouraging.
Hmm. I love
Yeah,
that. How
yeah.
are
So
you
do
seeing
I.
it show up with the men?
I beg your pardon?
How are you seeing intuition show up with the men?
Well, it's less about intuition showing up, but it's more about knowing that something needs to be fixed and they don't know how to take the next step. So I've helped men um, with sexual trauma, childhood traumas, self-sabotage patterns, uh, overeating, excess, also anxiety, severe anxiety and loneliness. And I guess I would never have imagined that that would have been a burgeoning part of my practice. They're coming in and they may not feel intuitive, they may not know what to do with anything, but they're open to healing, and that makes all the difference.
That's beautiful. That's
Yeah,
beautiful. Because one of
yeah,
the things that I've seen in our culture, probably internationally, is many men don't know how to access their feelings. And so to be able to open that vulnerability,
yeah,
so
yeah,
important for themselves. I mean, yes, for
yeah.
relationships, but first and foremost for the relationship with themselves.
Correct, correct. And to trust somebody they don't really know. I might have been referred on to them, but it's the trust
Mm,
in giving yourself over to an energy worker or a intuitive healer is huge,
yeah,
because
that's
there are a lot of charlatans out there, and there are a lot of people who are not so ethical, and so it does take a big leap of faith and trust.
well, for me, this is me, I can already feel your frequency.
Oh,
So I know what you bring and what you offer because I can feel it. Um, and I sense that even the ones that don't have that degree of sensitivity, on some degree, can sense it.
I think so. And I think what makes, I guess, me a little bit more relatable is that I've got a traditional background like you,
Yeah.
I have worked in corporate. I've worked in a man's world.
Right.
I have, even though my subject matter was psychology, I was, doing presentations, working with top teams, presenting to boards, all of those things that are relatable to a whole lot of people.
Mhm.
So that does build the trust. And hopefully, when you meet me, you will see that ethics are very, very important.
Mhm.
I've had a couple of experiences with not so ethical energy workers and so-called light workers. So I'm on a mission to destigmatize it in many ways
That's
and
beautiful.
to normalize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
My back road is my back door is the animals, because I see the animals taking on the
Yes,
energy of their humans.
they do.
And what I've heard from the animals is they want to end the co-dynamic relationship that they've had and step into a sovereign steward relationship. So we're the stewards, we're not the owners anymore. We're the stewards, and they can step into their sovereignty more. So I don't usually pick up cats anymore unless they're doing something that needs to be, like if they're trying to eat my food, I'll move them.
Yeah.
But like,
Fair enough.
but past that, I'll wait for them to come to me, because
Yeah.
I'm honoring that. It's a very interesting shift in the dynamics for me,
Yes.
because I'm honoring that being as they know what they want. And if they want my attention, they'll come. Like a boo just came out of nowhere and was like in my face for 10 minutes. Now he's gone. He got his fix.
Yeah. Yeah. He'll
And
come back if and when he wants to, right?
right. And I don't have to demand anything of him. And so that's the energy that they're shifting into. And so my mission is to try to help educate that.
I think that's powerful. And I mean, I'm a real animal lover. I turned vegetarian when I was 11. Now I'm kind of vegan, and I really love animals. All my pets are rescues. But as you're talking, I realize when my cats were still alive and they were, as I said, rescues, the one was a bit feral, I'd often just pick her up and kiss her and squeeze her and hug her to try and show her love. But what you're saying is really resonating, because that might have been a bit of a boundary break, and so
Well,
I'm
and it's
kind of
also
go
like,
away and reflect.
well, and it's also like the new ones, the younger ones, the ones that are 2 and under are really coming in with that energy. The older ones are still in that pattern
Yeah, yeah,
because that's what they've known. And I've done ancestral lineage breakage. I just worked on a dog this week, and he was some sort of terrier, and so he had the terrier behavior. Well, the terrier
yes,
behavior's in his ancestral DNA.
right.
So we deactivated that, he and I, and then within 24 hours, he was chill because he didn't have the programming anymore.
Correct,
And it's like,
correct.
so they're all asking for release of those old programs, however they show up. And then they're also asking the humans to be more accountable for their energy.
True. That's
So
right. I know. I know. And as you're speaking, I'm reflecting on my own conduct. And when my first cat passed away, actually her name was Saturn, which you mentioned. There were 6 weeks between her and the next one passing. And after she passed, for the few days afterwards, I wept. And I had the other cat just sitting and watching me. And I'm kind of thinking about whether energetically that was the right thing to do or not, but I can't change it. I'm just doing a
right,
bit
right,
of a
right.
reflection of,
No, it's just a
yeah,
reflection. And it's more of awareness for when you have another four-legged come into your life, what that's going to look like now. I mean, I haven't had a pet, um, a four-legged in my life since 2014 that I've lived with full time. That is chosen to live with me. Like I've had
right.
animals that I'm taking care of, but they're not in contract with me, I guess is the best way to put it. So when I have one, and then he came into my field about 6 months ago, and I'm driving and I hear this name, Fernando. I'm like,
Oh,
okay. I'm like, what the heck is a Fernando? And I hear it again, Fernando. And then I feel his energy, and he's a big rescue Bernese mountain dog. that really wants
Beautiful.
to be in my field. And I'm like, okay, honey, I have to have a place to have you first. I've been traveling a lot. So like when I'm settled, he can come into my field and like he's just like going to be completely different from anything as a dog I've related with before, because if he's coming into my consciousness right now, I haven't even met him yet, but he's like, I'm ready. I'm like,
Yeah,
wow, okay,
yeah.
what are you ready for?
Fascinating,
Yeah,
fascinating.
it's
It's
beautiful.
interesting. If I can just go back to something you
Yeah,
said a few moments ago, which I
yeah.
find is probably worth just doubling down on, which is um, the idea that in order to heal in the here and now, you sometimes have to go back across the lineage. You've got to go deep into space and time, and that's something that I do as well. I've got
Oh,
sacred
beautiful.
geometry. Yeah, I work with advanced sacred geometry that allows me to access, a person's timeline in this lifetime. So to go back to childhood wounds and
Beautiful.
heal them. And then also gestational wounds. And
Mm.
then, I can access the karmic grid if something's karmic,
Oh,
as well as ancestral lines. So I think what you're talking about is so important because often the blocks that we have and the issues we carry transgenerationally.
mm.
And when you heal at that level, it's like a circuit breaker, which is saying is this pattern stops with me. And
Mhm.
that's where um, rapid and permanent change
Yeah,
happens. I'm
yeah.
really glad that you mentioned that, and I just
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
want to lose it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I want to talk more about how do you experience your sessions? Because I'm so curious, because I love the energy of sacred geometry. It's not, I almost failed geometry, so I know this is different.
Yeah.
But like, how do the energetics come through you in sessions?
Well, often by intention. So not always, but most often, I set the intention to create a particular sacred geometry that will be useful in a particular healing.
Mm,
But there are times where I suddenly feel myself surrounded by a sacred geometry or embodying a sacred geometry, but most times it's by intention. So I'll set that. What we do is so typically hour-long sessions. We'll set an intention for the session. What does the person want to release most?
mhm,
And then I'll do the healing. And then while I'm doing the healing, I'm called to create and build particular sacred geometries that are either kind of put in my energy field or actually put inside me and then expand depending. And then I use them in that way. So yeah, that's how it works. And
That's
it's done
amazing.
through actively, setting intention.
Wow. I
Mm,
love that. That is so
it's
magical,
interesting.
because like my I can feel and sense and know, and visualization is kind of a little not not my strength so much. So like to be able to feel, I'd be able to feel the sacred geometry more than actually like visualize it. And but I love that.
Well, we've all got different spiritual senses,
Mhm.
So for some of us, it is feeling, and for others, it is clairvoyance, sight. But actually, intention is so powerful that when you set the intention to build some sacred geometry in its divine proportions, you actually don't have to see it or even feel it. It happens automatically.
Wow.
So yeah. So that's the power of intention. But
Wow.
for me, when I layer on, my spiritual senses, and I can really sense it, or I can see what it is, and I can feel it spinning or whatever, that amplifies the effect for sure.
Wow. I love that.
And so do I. I
That's
love sacred geometry. I just think it is, gosh, it's fascinating and it is so powerful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How were you drawn into it?
Well, actually, an advert came up on Instagram, one of those cookies. And it was a 3-day kind of extended weekend workshop, this guy felt like there was something about him, there was a resonance, and I attended it. And he didn't speak about sacred geometry in the ad, but
Okay.
when I got there, so we kind of moved slowly through some of the basic course material. And he got us to the point on day 3 where he spoke about geometry, and I didn't even know what it was.
Mhm.
And I then, after that, signed up and I did 3 levels of accreditation
Wow.
with him because I
That's
think,
beautiful.
it's you know, Reiki masters use not so much geometry nor symbols, but the methodology that I use is advanced
Okay.
multi-geometry. So working with things like the flower of life,
Mhm.
working with things like the tree of life, working with things like the Sri Yantra, and so forth. And they've got
Oh,
incredibly potent energetic frequency.
yeah.
You've got to build up to be able to work with them. And
Mhm.
then when you've got that energetic capacity and you work with them, they expedite healing.
Mhm.
It's quite incredible to see,
That's beautiful. I love that
isn't
because
it?
we've had these symbols around for so long. And, you know, some beings know how to use it, but the fact that it's finally getting taught again,
Yeah,
that the tradition wasn't lost, but that it's now being able to be used in the healing that it was probably all along meant to be used for is really magical.
it's magical and it's ancient wisdom, as you say. Yeah, and it's non-denominational, so you will find sacred geometry in all formal religions.
Mhm, mhm,
And the way that I've learned to use them is to kind of bring all like an eclectic source from
mhm.
them and to use them together. It is magnificent.
That that is
Yeah.
that's just so magical. Like I'm just imagining the I have a friend who does sound healing frequencies, and I'm actually visualizing these powerful sacred geometrical figures with the sound frequencies that he brings in because I feel the synergy of them, and
Yes,
it just feels like so
yes.
like intense. Do you hear frequencies when you bring in the different geometries, or is it a sense or
It's a sense. For me, I actually, my clair audience was really the only thing I had when I started, but now I've got clairvoyance, so I can see, and my sense, my clairsentience has developed, so I can really sense it. When it comes to sound healing, it's what you kind of really alluding to is the power of layering. So you can be doing, you can be listening to solfeggio or binaural beats, okay, sound frequency that's healing. And then you can also be using your active imagination to bring shapes and to start seeing things and
Mhm, mhm.
imagining things. The more you stack when you're healing, the more potent the healing is.
Wow.
So sound with in visual, visualizing things is a really potent combination.
Mhm, mhm. I love
And I
that.
love and I love sound frequency. I'm a big fan of it. I went through a phase, I haven't done it in a couple of months, but for a long time I went to sleep every night with solfeggio
Mm,
music, for a solfeggio frequency playing. I would do a bit of a scan. You spoke about intuition, which chakra needs, where
mhm.
do I want to be healing overnight? And say it was, my heart chakra, then it would be, I'd pick the 5 to 8 solfeggio frequency, which is the frequency of the heart chakra. And it's a very efficient and low effort way of healing. More people should do it
I agree.
because you could literally go to sleep with it or lie back and relax. And the sound frequency does a lot of healing for you.
Yeah. I'm amazed and giddy about how we get to live in this time frame where all of these gifts are coming forward for people to heal. It's,
very much.
I feel so much compassion. Like my mom is 84. She has dementia. She had
Right.
childhood trauma. No interest, no interest in anything I do, any modalities I have access to, because it's her soul journey. But I think she perceives that the degree of healing she needs to undergo to clear her soul out um, is too great. And so I just send her unconditional love every day.
That's right. You know, you can't heal somebody without their consent. That's one of the ethical, but also practical things. Like, you know, unless you've got someone's consent, you're not going to be able to get to their energy, nor is it ethical to do so. But what you can always do is you can always send unconditional love. And I have a sacred geometry that I actually got two sacred geometries that activate unconditional love. And if I can embody them and pull that frequency in and just send love
Mm.
to somebody, it's very powerful. It's the basis of how I do world healings. Because when you're doing a world healing, you can't ask permission from 7 billion people or however many people.
Right.
So you just kind of, I've got this sacred geometry, it amplifies the love frequency, and I send it out.
I love that. Because we could, like, I activate my toroidal field and send out unconditional love every morning and night when I go to sleep and
Awesome.
wake up. Because
Yeah.
I was visiting Orcas Island last summer, and I went to see a play. It was C.S. Lewis's Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and C.S. Lewis.
Lovely.
Um,
I remember that growing up.
so,
Yeah.
but the place I was at had very deep post-traumatic stress disorder from the past 3 years. I
Right.
lived in Mount Shasta. I didn't experience any of that. I was really, really blessed that I did. Like, I saw my friends, I hugged them, we had dinners together. Like, I didn't change my life for the past 3 years. So I go in and I'm like this little butterfly unicorn thing, like, hi, how you
Mm.
doing? I'm wonderful. And they're all in trauma. So I'm like feeling like I need to do something that like help them. And I hear activate your Makaba. I never
I love the macabre. I love
okay, so
that.
I'm activating something activated my Merkaba, and then I hear, okay, now we're activating your toroidal field, and you're just going to send unconditional love to everyone. I was like, oh wow, that's so cool because I'm not in charge of taking care of anyone. I can watch the play and send unconditional love that isn't mine. It's just the unconditional love
Channel.
that exists.
Yeah.
And I had a beautiful time at the play. I felt the shift in the whole audience. Again, it wasn't me. I just happened to be the one holding space for that and emitting it. And then
Yeah.
I left when I was done, and it just felt like I didn't have to do anything. I was just
Yes.
open to be the one to offer this. And that's how
And that
simple our lives can be.
absolutely. And that's the power of sacred geometry. You talk about the macabre, which I use all the time. Now, sacred geometry it's like an adapter, and what it does when you use it is it allows divine energy to channel through you, and you just become the vessel.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's you can. There are times when you are active in the healing, you physically going in, releasing blocks, but there are times where you can actually step back and just let the geometry do its thing.
Yeah.
And well, that's what you had that experience. So it's important as a healer for us to always remember that we are not doing the healing. We are merely the vessel for
Mhm.
that healing, for divine healing to flow through us, which is why we've got to be in a high vibrational state.
Yep.
We've got to have worked on our own blocks so that we're a clear channel and a clear vessel
Mhm.
to
I
heal
completely agree
others.
with that. It's so
Yeah.
important because if I love when I do a session, I feel things shifting. My handwriting gets almost
Yeah.
illegible.
Yeah.
And like I'll hear things come through and I'm just writing it down into a formula. And like sometimes I'll pause just to make sure that I'm getting the information right. But I mean, by the time the session's done, I'm like, what did I write? Like what? Because I wrote it
Exactly.
back. And so I know it's not me. I just happen to be the facilitator for the healing. And I'm so grateful for that because it gives my left brain a break. It
Yes.
expands my connection to the divine within me. And it's like a little kid when I see the animal receiving the healing, I get so excited. I'm like a little kid. Oh my God, oh my God. Like that kind of level of excitement because
Yeah.
it's not me. Like it's
Yes.
the innocence that's me.
Correct. Correct. I agree. Lots to talk about, lots of ground to cover.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's so many ways that a conversation about energy healing and spirituality can go.
I know.
And yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's the joy is like it's just it's so much fun to be able to have a podcast so I can interview people to share different modalities because not every modality is going to work for every single person.
True, true. That's absolutely true. So I found my modality. And but I actually think like the key to modalities working, I mean, the modality is important, but the person on the receiving end has got to be receptive. Have you
Mhm.
not found that, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
I mean, most of the time it's self-selecting. So people will come to me because they, you know, want it.
Mhm.
But there are still times where even if people want it, in their heart center, they're not able to open up. And I've had about 2 experiences, not very many,
Yeah.
where I cannot read somebody's energy because they won't let me in.
Mhm.
And in those instances, it doesn't mean that healing hasn't happened. It
Mhm.
just means that I can't really give detailed feedback to
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
person. But yeah, I mean, the efficacy of any personal development or self-development modality is the willingness of the receiving party. They've
Mhm.
got
Mhm.
to be wanting it, open to it,
Yeah.
trusting in it.
There's a dog I know, beautiful, beautiful, not very strong-willed. Oh my gosh, so strong-willed. And gets in trouble all the time. His name is Smokey.
Mm.
He's just like he owns the neighborhood and it's a big neighborhood. It's like it's rural weed, California. And he has never let me do a session with him.
Yeah.
Oh no, no, I'm fine. Like, are you
Yeah,
sure, Smokey? It's
exactly.
like you're eating all the things that you're not supposed to be eating and you're like getting out of your invisible fence thing. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm good. Really? Like, oh yeah, no, I'm doing me. And you humans have to adapt to it. I'm like, okay,
Correct.
because we don't want to hit you when you run in the road and like stuff, basic human stuff. And he's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah,
Wow, it's so fascinating.
it's really fat, and humans are exactly the same.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had a handful of people who are just, as I go in, I can feel the resistance. I can just feel it.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So if you are keen to heal, check in with yourself first and ask, are you ready? Are you, this is something you really want?
Right. I'm of the how many different modalities can I try?
Me too.
I'm just like,
I
oh,
know,
that one looks really cool. I want to see what that one is. I want to see what
I
that
know, I
because for me,
know.
my mission is to find as many subconscious programs I possibly can so I can be more light to the world.
Correct,
And that's not my
correct.
ego, it's just I don't like all the subconscious programs.
I know. They're like reels in our head. They just keep going and going. I mean, I've been in the field of psychology like 27 years, in energy mastery for a number of years. And I actually woke up this morning. I had a really profound dream. I haven't captured it, but I still do remember it. There's something there. There's an unconscious story that has come out of that dream, and I've got to go away and figure it out and sort it out.
I had that this
So
week too. It was like really,
yeah,
really deep. And I'm like, okay, and it was like 3 different days of dreams that showed me different aspects. And then the third morning, I woke up and I was like, okay, my mind really just wanted to figure out like how complex it was. So I know all the layers to heal because it just came in so many different ways. I'm like, oh, this is a really big one. This is like 43 years of my life, big level in this lifetime of
Right.
perceiving how I identify myself. I'm like, this is really cool that I get to. It's going to require a lot of patience and a lot of compassion and a lot of self-forgiveness and a lot of acceptance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
And I have the ability to do that now. I didn't,
Exactly.
I didn't 10 years ago. I didn't even have 2 years ago.
Forgiveness is such an important part of moving forward. I always say this, it's like my mantra. Moving forward, when you're wanting to change, it's as much about moving forward as it is about letting go. You've got to do those two things simultaneously. And forgiveness is a huge part of letting go. Again, I've got a sacred geometry that is all about total forgiveness.
Mm,
And I often use it when I am dealing with childhood traumas with people.
mhm.
Um, because at that age, the young child, that's where the stories germinate. They don't have the capacity to make sense of what's happening in their world. And often take on the blame and take on responsibility that is inappropriate for them to be doing so. So it's total forgiveness geometry and process that I facilitate
Beautiful.
is a very, very important part of moving forward. You can't just move forward, you've got to let go first.
And
Yeah,
especially for the little ones, because I'm sure anyone born after like 1960 has, I mean, prior to that, yes, but the energies were denser, so it was harder to be empathetic. Anyone after like 1960, I'm using that as an arbitrary date, came in sensitive.
yeah, yeah,
And to take on the energies of our ancestors, which I did, I was like, I knew when I was little, I'm like, okay, I am clearing everything. I'm like, what? What does that even mean? I am not having children because I'm not bringing it forward. And I knew that at
right.
10 because I wanted to clear all of the ancestral stuff. And I'm like,
Wow.
what does that mean? I'm 10, but like then I took it all on because like, and then I started, becoming
Yeah,
aware of it in my later years. But like there was this determination of like, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be cleared and nobody else needs, I'm gonna do it.
yeah, yeah.
So
You're breaking the cycle, you're a
yeah,
circuit breaker.
yeah,
Yeah,
hasn't been
I
fun.
get that. No. Well, the process for a lot of people, they say it's not fun or it's difficult, but I get a little bit of a thrill because when I'm in a kind of a healing space and I'm purging and emotionally I feel depressed. Like all I see it as is that it's my old stuff coming out to the surface to be released.
Yeah.
And so I kind of welcome it because it's
Mhm.
temporary. And on the other side of that challenging kind of experience of letting go is peace. Don't we
Yes.
all seek that?
Yes. There are just some that are a little more difficult to get to peace than others.
That is true. That is very true.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's like having that deep level of Kuan Yin is one of my guides, and she's
yeah,
constantly reminding me, no, slower, slower, honey, slower, slower. I'm like, oh, okay, be slower. And then I'll go into a deeper level, and then it's no, even slower than that. I'm like, and embracing the breadth of the me that I am.
yeah.
Um, so recognizing I love driving a performance car and I'm really gentle.
Yes.
And
Oh, that's a
everything in
beautiful
between.
analogy. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
that's great.
yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna ask you one final question because we're getting close to an hour and
We are. That went really quickly.
yeah, I know. How do people find you?
People can find me on social media. They can just Instagram Gabrielle.Pimstone. Also, I've got a Facebook page, but I'm more responsive on Instagram. I love DMs. I love starting conversations with people. I also post there, not all the time, but a few times a week, and I share practical tips all the time. And then also launching my program, a new program. And so all the details will be there if people
Awesome.
are keen to join. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Gabrielle, I have so thoroughly enjoyed meeting you and having an incredible conversation with you and having this heart space connection with you. I'm just so grateful.
Thank you. I'm also really grateful. Thank you for the time.
Oh, you're welcome.